The following review is intended for entertainment purposes and targeted for adult fans of the series.
Though I will say that even as he was just starting to get up there in age a little bit, Dacascos was still in prime physical form and martial arts form. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another Kamen Rider Dragon Knight episode review. I know I said last time that I'd be working on this shot because I didn't like it too much, but one, it's starting to grow on me just a little bit, and two, in the past couple of days, I did do some testing on my new idea for a brand new setup, but it's going to require a little more investment to actually work out, so this is probably what we're going to have for now. Episode 35. How long ago I started reviewing this show as hiatus videos. How many different times I thought that I might not finish the series. And now here we are. Practically mere moments from the end. Last time, our hero Kit was brought back from the Advent Void and given the mysterious and previously nightmare-exclusive powers of Kamen Rider Onyx by the Advent Master. He almost immediately got in a fight with his Ventaran doppelganger Adam, but the Advent Master stopped him from venting Adam, instead bringing him back to the base to tell his side of the story. Let's see what yarn he's about to spin as we take a look at the 35th episode of Kamen Rider Dragon Knight, A Hero's Fall.
Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel.
Yeah, and make sure you got your notifications set up by hitting that little bell icon.
Right you. What he said was, you can consider checking us out on Patreon or Ko-fi at Orange Ranger Videos. Right you.
After the recap, Eubulon catches up with Len outside and asks him why he doesn't want to hear Adam's side of the story. That's not really a mystery. He wasn't lying. He literally has heard this story before. He doesn't need to hear it again. But Eubulon speculates that if Len listens to Adam, he may find himself needing to forgive him. Len says that he will never forgive Adam. Eubulon, seemingly bemused by this for some reason, suggests that they spar so that Len can channel some of these aggressive feelings. The two walk off a little bit to a more open area, and Eubulon forms these silvery spears for them to spar with. Honestly, this is another one of those Kamen Rider Dragon Knight sequences that's just in here to show off martial arts, though I will say, even though he was just starting to get up there in age a little bit, Dacascos was still in prime physical condition and martial arts form. Though I will also say Eubulon was wearing this weird kind of studded, almost like body armor tank top. They have a little plot banter as they spar. He might be innocent. How could he be innocent? I don't know. I'd have to listen to his story to find out. Len says that he woke up and saw Adam in the base holding all of their rider decks. But Eubulon says there may be more to the story than that. They ditch the spears and start going hand to hand. Eubulon finally asks Len if he knows the truth in his head or just feels it in his gut. He is a great warrior, but a great leader needs both strength and wisdom. Len takes it to heart, and the two go to listen to Adam. The next scene is actually very interesting. Maya goes to see Case, who is laying in bed, recovering from injuries, with a full face worth of makeup on. Anyway, Maya hands her the Siren deck and says that that belongs to her. Being a Kamen Rider may have been one of the best feelings that she ever had in her life, but perhaps remembering what Len said about the deck being a sort of lifetime alarm of danger, she's decided that this is not what she wants to do with her life. She is dedicated to being a journalist and exposing the truth whenever it tries to be hidden. Kay says that people like Maya are what the Riders are fighting for the people that won't just accept lies from people like Xaviax at face value, and boy, this is hitting real close to home right now.
This will be a plan where you can choose your plan. And you know what the plan is. This is the plan.
I think we might be seeing this scene later on in the review, maybe in the prose section. But for now, let's move along. Adam makes his presentation to the Kamen Riders, and I feel the need to point something out before we jump into this. The audience goes into the story fully aware that Adam's story is a lie. Xaviax has maneuvered Adam into a position where he can tell the Riders a story so they'll take him back into their good graces and he can betray them once again. So it's like this story is being told by the ultimate unreliable narrator. But here it is. On Adam's last tour of active duty, being the one rider awake while all the other riders were in their 12-year sleep cycles, he fell in love with a girl named Sarah, who we've seen before. The time came for him to go back into his sleep cycle, and she begged him to run away with her instead. He said that he really, really wanted to, but just couldn't abandon his duty. On the last day before it was time for Betty Buys again, something amazing happened. Adam is just about to chuck his deck off of a cliff, for all the good that would do him, as we know mechanically, when he is approached by Xaviax in one of his best disguises of the season, a super nerdy Poindexter-looking librarian-type guy who introduces himself as Paragon.
Young man, I apologize, but are you Adam?
He asks if this is Adam and explains that he is an associate of Eubulon's from the same planet, Karsh. He even name drops himself, saying that he's a refugee from Karsh's war with Xaviax. For some reason, at this point, we cut back from the flashback to Adam telling the story to the other riders, but Adam has backed up a little bit and tells some parts of the story again. Just moving forward, since Paragon is the same species as Eubulon, for some reason at this point we cut back from the flashback to Adam telling the story to the other riders. But Adam backs up a little bit and tells a little bit of the story over again. Anyway, since Paragon is the same species as Eubulon, he says that he would be able to unlink the riders from their decks. For some reason, at this point, we cut back from the flashback to Adam telling the story to the other riders. But Adam backs up a little bit and tells certain parts of the flashback over again. Anyway, moving forward, since Paragon was the same species as Eubulon, he said that he could unlink the riders from their decks. Of course, that doesn't really make sense if you think about it, seeing as Eubulon was the one who designed the decks, but it's not really supposed to make sense if you think about it, so let's just move on. Adam says that he was so excited about this because it could be the way it was always supposed to be before Eubulon disappeared. The current riders could retire and find new, younger riders to take their place. He let Paragon into the base and grabbed all the decks because in the past the riders had talked about wanting to move on to their own lives after their tour of duty as riders, so this would be possible now. He tells them that he was Xaviax's prisoner from that point until the war flared back up on Earth, that distracting Xaviax enough so he could escape. The other riders seem to buy this. Kay says that he may not be a traitor, but he sure is a world-class genius. Seriously, the last word even sounds redubbed, like she originally said, idiot or moron, but they decided that was a little too harsh?
Well, you might not be a traitor, but you are a world-class genius.
As this hangs in the air, 2 more transmitters are found. What incredible timing! Eubulon immediately sends Adam into action, teaming him up with Chance and Len to go to North America, while he Price and Hunt will go to Africa. Len, of course, immediately objects, saying he'd much rather go with Kit, but Eubulon says that Kit needs to stay and guard the base in case Zabiax figures out its location. I was ready to call complete BS on this, but thinking about it, it does actually make sense. You don't want Adam to be the one guarding the base when you don't entirely trust him. He could just tell Zabiax where it is. Kit even says after this, he has a point. There's no mention of Siren going into battle. Case was at the meeting, upright and seemingly in good condition, but as far as we know, the deck hasn't yet been unlinked from Maya. My point being, it seems like one of them could go along. Adam emotionally tells Len that he's not gonna let him down, and Len just walks away. We linger on Adam for a few heavy, silent moments, and if I can again read a silent moment on this show, I think that this has steeled Adam's resolve. He reached out to Len, and Len did not reach back. Len never reached back, remember? Anyway, we head off to Africa with Kamen Riders Axe, Strike, and Advent Master. They don't find anything, and then they're attacked by sheer ghosts. They fight those off, but then some kind of red zappy monster runs in and tackles Axe, injuring him. Advent Master runs over to help and orders a retreat. Axe tries to tell them to forget about him and to go get the transmitter, but then a whole bunch more sheer ghosts show up and Eubulon says it's time to go. But as they're trying to walk away, he drops Axe and, oh no, it's trouble.
That is not good!
Meanwhile, Torque, Wing Knight, and Dragon Knight are in North America. It kind of looks like they're supposed to be in New York, or maybe Chicago, and find a building that the transmitter must be inside. They're attacked by a monster that kind of looks like a knight itself, actually, and Adam almost immediately starts asking Len to give him the virus so he can run into the building and upload it to the transmitter. Len refuses at first, but is eventually pinned down by the monster. Adam once again desperately asks Len to give him the virus. Despite the fact that this is going to work, I'm going to point out the flaw in Adam's thinking here.
Len, give me the drive.
Your friend is pinned to the ground by a monster, and you're asking him about the virus. Sure, the mission is important, but help your friend first, then ask again about the virus. Indeed, as I sort of spoiled just there, Len tosses him the drive. As Adam runs off, Len says, "Don't make me regret it," which actually makes Adam pause for a moment. He gets to the transmitter, and Zabiax is there waiting for him. He takes the virus, shuts down the transmitter so it seems like the virus was uploaded and dissolved. To make it look more convincing, and to give us a little more action to pad out the episode, he summons a monster to fight Adam. Meanwhile, back outside, Wing Knight clears the deck by final venting the monster they were fighting. There's a mirror down in the warehouse basement catacomb type thing that Adam's fighting in, because why wouldn't there be? So he tosses the monster into it, and of course the monster doesn't go over to Ventara, but stays on Earth going over to the place where the other two riders are, because I don't know. Anyway, they destroy that monster too. As Adam gets back, Trent reports to Len that the transmitter has been shut down, and the two riders congratulate Adam. Len saying that maybe he was wrong about him after all. And as they leave, we can see that the guilt is already eating Adam alive. At the base, another nice scene with Case, this time with Kit. Kit is antsy waiting for the others to get back, and Case comes out to talk to him. Kit says that he could be out there helping, but Case says sometimes a soldier's duty is not fighting an adventure, sometimes it's just to sit and wait. It comes out that Kit is still suspicious of Adam, mainly because, in a way, Adam is Kit, and Kit knows his tells when he's lying. But Case puts this down to over-suspicion and maybe even jealousy. and Kit accepts this for the time being. But actually, back up a second here, because there's something specific I want to focus on in this conversation. Kit doesn't feel like Adam is telling the whole truth. Case's response to this, which backs up what she said to him earlier, is,
Would you make up a story that made you sound that dumb?
yes! Of course! Adam is suspected of being conniving, treacherous, suspicious, diabolical. The only alternative is for him to have been so naive that he did something evil completely by accident. So of course he'd make himself sound like a doofus instead. Team Wing Knight returns, and Adam seems to have quickly gotten over that whole guilt thing, happily accepting kudos for shutting down the transmitter. Then Team Advent Master appears with the injured Axe. He is apparently badly injured, so much so that Eubulon has to use a pink energy ball to put him into a healing trance to help. We get a weird final scene back over with Zabiax. He begins decoding the virus and says,
Well, Adam. Nothing succeeds like success. I'm not sure what that really means.
let's read the cards. Episode 35, A Hero's Fall. Pros, Case surprisingly steals the show. Small signs of Adam's guilt. And Paragon. Cons, Adam's story is believed too easily. The action is kind of disjointed. And a good lesson at a bad time. Growing stronger as we go, just at the right time. A Hero's Fall gets 4 cards out of 5. You know, Case was down in the void for a while, and even when she's been back, she's mostly been laying in bed resting. Welcome back, Madam Case. She doesn't fight, and I wouldn't say she's really strongly involved in the plot at this point, but she serves as a calm voice of reason for both Maya and Kit. And one thing I really like is how she finds herself on both sides of that kind of conversation. Maya approaches her, returning the siren deck to her, and she reassures Maya that her passions are important, that journalism is a vital thing during a war like this. Then she senses Kit's anxiety and approaches him to calm him down. It's not all good. Say it with me, we're coming back to this. But overall, it was a pretty strong showing. This, funny enough, not only also ties into a con, but actually the same one that I hinted at just a moment ago. But knowing that Adam is not legit and is going to betray the Riders again, it's nice to see the small signs of his guilt. The way Len telling him not to make him regret it made him stop running for a moment. And of course, that sunken, silent head when the Riders were congratulating him. The show is making a subtle but very important point. Adam is a traitor, but he is not evil. And oh, Paragon. I thought we were done with Zaviax's delightful disguises, but the Flashback Fairy brings us another one. Though, actually, not really if you think about it, because this flashback didn't actually happen. Which really kind of makes sense, because the nerdy Paragon disguise isn't something I think Zaviax would go for himself, but it's what Adam thought of for him. Either way, of course, William O'Leary sells it, and it's just wonderful. There is something to be said about wanting to believe your friends. Like, even in less serious situations than this. Let's say that a friend of yours forgets your birthday, and when you tell them about it, they say that, oh, they've just been really busy lately, and that's why it slipped their mind. You want to believe that that's true, and not that they just forgot about it, and they're making up being busy. So that part makes sense, but when it comes to seasoned veterans of a war for their world, listening to the excuse of someone who betrayed them, I think the trust comes back a little bit too quickly for Adam. I don't think he's entirely trusted yet, but the fact that the writers so quickly go from absolutely hating him to, I guess Adam's just a little numpty. That happens a little too fast for me. The action this time is all over the place, probably due to coming from several different episodes and sources. An absolute show-off sparring session between Len and Eubulon, a fight in Africa where Axe gets hurt, a fight in New York, which is where the plot takes place, but even that has a seemingly randomly inserted fight between Adam and a monster. It just sort of felt like the fights this week were kind of randomly inserted at different points in the episode. So in that convo with Case and Kit, Case says that it's good for Kit to be wary of people, but eventually you have to give people a chance. Eubulon also seems to be preaching this at Len, about giving people a chance, listening to them, and giving them a second chance in life. That's a great lesson to learn and embrace. Adam is lying. It feels awkward for the episode to be teaching these lessons when the person in question is taking advantage of those principles. Now, yes, you can say that the greater lesson is that it's important to stick to those principles even when you can be taken advantage of again, but that's a real complicated lesson to teach. Like I said, getting stronger as we go, and now only 5 episodes to the end. Let's take a peek at the 36th episode of Kamen Rider Dragon Knight, Dark Deception. Zabiax learns Adam is having second thoughts and takes steps to put an end to that. Meanwhile, Eubulon tells Kit and Maya about his history with Ventara and Zabiax. And that is going to do it for another Kamen Rider Dragon Knight episode review. Thank you, heroes, so much as always for watching. Down in the comments below, you can let me know what you thought of this episode, as well as my review of it. And while you're down there, make sure you smack that thumbs up button to let me know that you enjoyed this video. Until next time, heroes, may the power of the cards protect you. He almost immediately got in a fight with his doppelganger. Last time, Kit was brought back from the Advent Void, given the mysterious and introduces himself as Paragon, a refugee from Adam felt like he could unlink. He said he... This doesn't really make any sense because it was Eubulon who designed the decks, but it's not really supposed to make sense if you think about it, so we'll just move along. He tells them that he was Zabiax's prisoner from that point until the war sparked up on Earth. Sparked up? While he goes with somebody and Eubulon immediately sends somebody into battle. We linger on Adam for a heavy moment, and Anyway, we head to Africa with Kamen Rider's Axe, Spear, and... Wait, not Axe and Spear. But actually, back up a second here, because there's something specific I want to focus on in this conversation. I don't know what it is, though. And remember to subscribe and check out notifications and